What's up, guys? Todd Kelly, Shuswap Outdoors, and today I'm going to show you how to sew up holes in your hides. This is a beaver hide here I have. It's been pickled, neutralized, and I'm getting ready to board it and put our tanning oil, and this is the best time to sew up your holes before you put the tan on. For thread, you got a couple options here. Dental floss works really good, especially the super short areas, fine hair, thin area hides. Dental floss works really well. Even for thicker hides, long hair areas, works good. The other thing I have here, this is called bowstring, and it's a wax thread sold for taxidermy sewing. This is what I use on all the mounts. Works really well, especially for the long hair areas like we have here. For our needle, I like a curved needle. I can't remember what this is called. I'll put it in the video here, what it's actually called here, but the curved ones work really well. They're a three-sided needle, so they puncture through really well. So for our leg hole here, we want this thing to lay flat, so we're going to have to cut it. So when we look at our hide and you're going to sew up a hole, we can see our hair pattern is going this direction here. So that's the way we're going to want to sew up this hide, is with the hair pattern. It's going to hide your stitches and your hole really well. So we're going to cut this leg opening and make it bigger. Like I said, we want this to lay flat. So we'll cut our hide here. Get any of the loose hairs out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is to avoid having a bunch of bunching on the ends of your hide. We're going to turn this hole, which is fairly round, into more of an oval. And you can see our hairs are going this way. So I'm going to get my knife. And we're going to make this hole a little bigger. I'll try to keep my hands out of the way as much as possible. So we want to take the end out and make it more of an oval football shaped pattern. Same with the other end here. Take that out. That's pretty good. I'm just going to remove a bunch of the hairs here. So I cut off a chunk of my bowstring thread here. And you're going to pick one of the sides to start out with, doesn't matter. And you go to the end of your hole, put your needle through. Pull it down to the end, and we're just going to do a simple overhand knot, but we're going to go through the hole 3 times. And because this thread is waxed, it holds a knot really well. You don't have to get too carried away. These knots don't come undone. We're just going to do another simple single overhand knot, and we want to pull that really tight. And we can cut our tag end really short. So our attachment point is, say, on this top end here. So we're going to come down to the other side across from it. And we're doing what is called a baseball stitch. So you're going from one side through, back, coming down. So we're always going from the flesh side to the hair side, going back and forth. And don't be afraid to start your hole back a fair bit. If you do them too shallow, there's a chance that you're going to tear the leather, and it becomes a little bit of a pain to sew. and do your best to try to keep as much of the hair out of the stitches as possible. And we just keep going back and forth, always from the same side down through the leather. These stitches you want to tighten fairly tight, snug them up, because this leather's wet and it's going to dry and shrink on you. They will loosen up, so you want them fairly snug when we're sewing into a wet hide. As far as distance in between your stitches, a 1/16 to an 1/8 is fine in between holes. You don't have to go super tight on them. On bigger animals, when I'm doing like elk or deer that have a fall winter coat on them, I'll even go a 1/4 inch, and even sometimes up into a 1/2 inch apart on shoulder mounts. And that's just because the hair is so long, you're never going to see the stitches. And also because the hair is so long, the tighter you do them, you get a little bit of bunching in your sew. So we just continue on working back and forth. There's another stitch you can use called the whip stitch. That is for more shorter hair areas, armpits, face areas where the hair is super short and fine. I might make a video on that at a later date, but we just keep working back and forth and doing our best job to keep the hair out. And because we're sewing with the hair pattern, that also helps keep the hair out of the way. The hair on this is a little damp, which really helps. It kind of makes the hair clumpy and you're able to get it out of the way. If the hair is really dry, go ahead, wet it down around your hole, and that will help you keep your hair out of your stitches. If you do get a little bit of hair through onto the leather side, not that big of a deal. You won't notice it on the fur side, especially on something that has longer hair. We'll just keep working our way down. We're almost at the end. Helps to be able to flip it over to the fur side, get that fur out of the way. If you have a long hole that's, I would say, longer than 5 to 6 inches long, every, say, 3 to 4 inches, you're going to want to do a lock stitch. That just makes sure that the stitching doesn't loosen off as it dries, and I'll show you how to do that here. So we'll go through our side, opposite side as normal. And let me get this. So we got our loop here. So instead of just pulling it tight, we're going to grab our needle with the thread in it. We're going to go through the loop one time and pull that down. Use your fingers to pinch that knot as you tighten it, and that'll be your lock stitch. So that's kind of an anchor point for your thread. So anything from that anchor point that you've already tied is not going to loosen up on you. But like I said, that's only for big holes, long stretches of sewing. So just use your needle to tuck that hair under, and we can now start to pinch it to keep the hair out. Push that hair back down and pinch it with your fingers. So we're coming right down to the end here. You don't have to do anything super fancy to lock this off. So we want to make sure that everything's pulled tight. We're down to the very end. We're going to go through both sides right at the end of the hole. And we're going to do another lock stitch. So we'll pull your thread through. We've got our loop. Grab your needle, go through. This time we're going to go through 3 times. Pull down. Once again, use your fingers. Pinch that off. We can cut our tag end really short. And there we go. That's our stitch. We have a few hairs here. If you want, you can cut those off. A fine pair of scissors works really well for this if you want to clean it up really well. But there we go. We'll come over to the fur side. Got our brush. Sorry, I'll center this. And as you can see, our stitch is right here. So as this dries, the stitch is going to loosen off a little bit. And as you can see, there's just a tiny little bit of bump here. That's because the hair is wet and laying flat. But that will flatten out as this dries out and the leather thins out on you. But there you go. If you have any questions or comments on stitching, throw those down below in the comments below. I always check the comment section. Hit the thumbs up. That helps the video be seen by more people. And if you're into more fishing, hunting, taxidermy content, please subscribe. Anyways, thanks for watching.